Hello, friends. This is the AlphaList podcast. I am your host, Toby. The goal of the AlphaList podcast is to empower CTOs with the info and insight they need to make the best decisions for their company. We do this by hosting top thought leaders and picking their brains for insights into technical leadership and tech trends. If you believe in the power of accumulated knowledge to accelerate growth, make sure to subscribe to this podcast. Plus, if you're an experienced CTO, you will love the discussion happening in our Slack space where over 600 CTOs are sharing insights, or visit one of our events. Just go to alphalist.com to apply. Welcome to the AlphaList podcast. I'm your host, Toby, and today with me is Loïc Houssier. Loïc, welcome to the AlphaList podcast. For everyone listening, Loïc is the CTO of Superhuman, a tool that many of you know, a company that decided that email doesn't have to be a misery, and then proved it. He's a French engineer who was transplanted into this San Francisco-based ecosystem, and he started steering Superhuman through its acquisition by Grammarly. Was that all correct?
It's correct. It's correct. Like maybe one adjustment to it is that Grammarly got renamed Superhuman. So technically, I'm not the CTO of Superhuman anymore, but like I'm the CTO of Superhuman Mail, which is the business unit inside the big ecosystem of Superhuman, which includes Grammarly and Coda and now Mail.
Okay. So Grammarly decided that you got the better brand and that they have to change to a better brand.
Like Grammarly is definitely a good brand, but it's somewhat limited in terms of scope in the imagination of people when they think about it. So Superhuman is much more, I would say, larger scope. You can put like a way more things behind the name compared to Grammarly. But Grammarly is, it's a brand name. Like everyone knows Grammarly. Like talk about like the studio.
I know it as well, but I don't know anything about it. I don't know what they're doing. So,
that's it's a really good business. They were doing basically LLM before LLMs. They were doing probably like most of the
spell corrections, right? That's
correction.
Yeah.
That's why like Grammarly, it's to be better on your grammar and to have like a better way to provide, I would say, everything that you want to communicate to other people without the typos, without even the way to phrase things, avoid repetitions and all of that. So it's really used. It was initially used a lot by students writing essays or like people doing like a lot of writings to help them, I would say, move faster and go faster and expand it beyond it. So it's a pretty cool tool.
Okay, and now you basically do the upsell. So Superhuman Mail users now have to buy Grammarly in addition, and Grammarly users have to buy Superhuman. And you even have, for Grammarly, you even have a deeper lock-in than before, or stickiness. Let's call it stickiness, because you're also changing your email address and all that jazz, right?
No, of course. It's I would say more than just an upsell strategy. It's much more like a vision. Both companies have the same type of vision where productivity is very important for like knowledge workers, and you get productive if we help you write, because knowledge workers, they write a lot, documents, business cases, whatever I say our jobs as knowledge workers is like very written oriented or writing oriented. And most of the places where Grammarly was used was in emails. People were in emails trying to write, I would say, proper emails and everything. So it was kind of like almost like logic to some extent to have like the two brands, I would say, work closer together. But the vision, Shishir, the CEO, formerly of Coda, but became the CEO of Grammarly, and Rahul, CEO of Superhuman, had the shared vision that one day the way we manage our productivity suite will be different. And both of them started from a different place, but they have like the same end goal, which is to be like basically the AI native productivity suite of choice. And productivity suite means you need to manage your communication, like email. You need to manage your task. You need to manage your documentation. You need to, there's a bunch of stuff in the productivity suite, and everyone is sort of like doing that. Like you see Notion. Notion is doing email now. They're doing calendar as well, because there's a consolidation of the different actors in the space towards like this productivity suite and having like more breadth. So yes, the name was also like something that was important as part of the acquisition, I trust. But the use case and our know-how was also important for the company.
And beforehand, I guess both companies had hundreds of millions of funding, and you went to like traditional VC track, right?
Yes, I would say all companies were like typical VC track, typical I would say VC funding. Yes.
Okay, cool. And beforehand, I mean, you kind of have a history that is very impressive for, let's say, a Frenchman, like not judging, but for European, right? Like you don't see many Europeans in the US, and you already worked like as VP engineering for DocuSign and First Base, etc. So maybe before we dig deeper there, maybe we start with your early career, like, and how did you got into computing actually, and what was your early spark, let's say, and when you started breaking computers in France, and then what made you jump on that train, and why you actually ended up in SF?
Yeah, that's an I would say I found it pretty interesting. But like I started as I was a typical engineer in France. I was a math graduate. I was on track to do like a PhD in math and computer science, in cryptography, so security space, and started, I would say, with Orange, the big telco company. At the time, it was called France Telecom. So damn, like I feel old now. But Orange, so big telco, I would say hundreds and thousands of employees, doing security research there, doing that kind of like typical engineer starting in Europe. Big Co is the go-to. It's kind of like where you go, you don't start.
And then you discover that it's super lame as soon as you work there, right?
Yeah, no. I mean, it's not, there's a lot to learn. There was a lot to learn, and I learned a lot there. Interestingly, a bunch of the people that were there moved to the US, like in the same lab at the same time. One is in New York, one is in LA. So like everyone got, two in LA. So everyone moved, I would say, from there. So it was a really good school. Let's put it that way. A really good stepping stone in my career. Then I switched to another like giant in France called Thales, defense industry, still doing security. So in that security researcher, I would say space, but also like doing some project for Department of Defense, like for like European agencies and stuff like this. Interestingly, I did 2 years outside of the software industry. So in those big corporations, when you're young, motivated and everything, they want you to try different jobs. So I did some stuff, like I went to an harbor in France, where I was doing maintenance of like submarines, carrier aircraft, and all of that. That was like a tremendous experience. Then I switched to like nuclear civil plant, contract management, totally different. But as part of my career, I would say this opened like a lot of like different ways to work, because I was working with people that were not from the software industry. The way they were working was different. The way they were thinking about problems was different as well. So I think it was like really enriching, and it was a good school. And at some point I was fed up with like big companies. So I joined a small company, and it was not exactly a startup. We were 60 or 70, not technically a startup, not VC funded, but it was a joint venture between, I would say, big companies in France, still in the defense industry, so doing security things. And this is where DocuSign knocked to our door and basically willing to buy us, because one of the business line we had was doing like digital signature. And I don't want to enter into the details, but like the same technology was used for security things and digital signature. And they wanted to buy that vertical. So technically, it was not even an acquisition. It was called a carve-out. So they wanted these assets, the people supporting this asset, but not the rest. And we had the Ministry of Finance, basically saying like the other business line, no way. That cannot go into the hands of Americans. So we had to create like a new structure. So basically put the half of the asset, half of the team into the new structure and sell the new structure to DocuSign. And this is how I came to join like San Francisco and DocuSign through that acquisition.
And DocuSign wasn't afraid of French labor law.
They were. That was like that was part of the discussion, like as part of the due diligence, as part of the. But they were also like that's one thing that we learned, or I learned in the US. It's just another risk. It's just another risk, like all the rest. And if you don't do an operation, it's also like an opportunity cost. So like the question becomes, if I don't buy this company that is the leader in France and part of the top, whatever, like 5 in Europe, how do I enter this market? Because it would be messy anywhere in Europe. So they took it as an input into like their decision process. But that don't stop them like for making decisions.
And I guess the fact that it was kind of a complex deal, right? Also shows, or also makes it a chance, not only a risk. Like, not many other buyers would have done that. Like, and not many other folks would have constructed that that structure only for selling that asset, or only selling for selling that product, etc.
Exactly. And that was also like a good way as an acquisition to be successful within DocuSign, because we were motivated to make the deal successful. So we've done all the hard work, and they were like, holy cow. Yeah, they're French. Yeah, like they have a lot of PTOs. They don't work a lot, whatever. But like when they work, oh my God.
They drink white wine for lunch.
100%. That part they love. But yeah, that was also a good opportunity for us, like to demonstrate, I would say, that not only they were buying an asset, buying a business, buying a revenue and a customer, a set of customers, but also they were like buying a team that were like demonstrating that they can do shit, basically. So it was a good opportunity for the team there, but it's also like a good opportunity for me, because I was able to drive this from a technical standpoint, like all the separation of the systems, the teams, without drama, and making like the acquisition successful, which is never easy. An acquisition is never easy. You have a difference of culture, you have a difference of toolings, you have difference of perspective, of vision.
I know that.
Always challenging. You know that.
Yeah, I know that. Unfortunately, and especially if you then aim for synergies, and synergies rarely come, right? That is in many cases the problem. Then often shit hits the fan, right?
Yeah, and I think that where they were, or maybe like stuck, is like the synergies where basically you let go people, because like you have duplication of roles and everything. There were not that many because we were like in a very, so for one, we were like a small acquisition. That helps. And the second part is that we were in France and we were targeting like a market they didn't have really. So there was a lot of subtleties that they could not manage from the headquarters in the US. So a bunch of the people that were in a typical redundancy area were either kept or like put in a slightly different position, reporting to different structure and everything, but still useful for the business to be run. So it was a smooth landing, mostly like for everyone. Some people are never happy because I don't know, you're used to be the C level of the company, and all of a sudden you're reporting to 1, 2, 3 levels in the US, and it's a different job.
Yeah. But for US company, it's also like I mean, France is kind of let's say not too expensive salary wise, right? I mean, that's also a chance. So like ideally they get rid of people on their end. I mean, hire people as VP engineering, for example, move them to SF, and then they discover how expensive everything is.
Yes.
have to increase their salary like crazy. Yeah.
Don't get me started on this. Like when they make me come, like in the US, so they gave me a salary, and I was like, holy cow! Like I will be like rich and everything. That would be awesome. And then you start to discover like the cost of life, the cost of living in San Francisco. And then I had 3 kids, and having kids in a family in the US is freaking expensive. Yeah. So the more time you spend in the US, the more you value the social democracy in Europe and their models. We might complain.
And also the healthcare systems, etc. Right? That's crazy.
I pay for school. I pay for healthcare, and even as my company is paying, I would say like my insurance. Still, there's this concept of co-pay, and just to let you know, Like every time I go to like a optometrist, like for my lens or like contacts and all of that, it's cheaper for me to go to France and pay without insurance rather than paying with insurance in the US.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's a market. It's interesting.
Crazy. So I better stay here. Decided. But we're here to also talk about tech and not about contact lenses. I mean, no offense. What is your personal? What would you call your personal secret sauce? Like you as a person. Is that you're deep in security, or because you worked in like encryption heavy environments, or is it that you worked in those big corporates and then can basically work with almost everyone, as you just stated, or what would you say is your personal secret sauce?
Interestingly, like I told you that I went to a harbor and I did some maintenance on submarines and like carrier aircraft and these type of boats. I had to be the muscle of learning fast, deep tech. I would say those deep techs were like torpedo system, propulsion system, like nuclear systems that are basically making like a submarine work because of the nature of the job. Because I was here to help make like progress on the processes, making it like smoother and eventually like reduce the cost of doing that maintenance. But you need to ramp up super fast to understand what you're talking about, at least a little, to ask the right questions. And you need to reach that level where you can ask the right question for the people that are in charge. So that ramp up and ability to learn very fast, something that is new to me, I think is something where I spike now and I build that muscle. The other, aspect is that as a leader, I'm totally comfortable working with people smarter than me. So whether it is AI, whether it is like whatever that can be, of course, I have the AI specialists and they know better than me. They have a PhD in this domain. Never I would be like more technical than those people having that depth and everything. But I think that as a leader, I proved, or I believe I proved, that I can pretty fast learn enough to be a good sounding board for those people. I can challenge them in the spaces where they didn't think enough. I can detect that when it's like a bit shallow. Of course, they would be like way deeper than me, way better than me. But I think that's the part. The second part, I think that, or the third part that I think I spike is execution. Like this acquisition that we mentioned was successful because we got it done and fast. And that's creating like some sort of like a brand of, that guy, I would say he can have like a hairy project or hairy things to manage. He will do it. And that in the Bay Area, especially in the world of startups, that's highly valuable. Because
it got out of hand for many companies, I guess, right? Like who were like really questioning their velocity, etc.
Exactly.
And then,
exactly. So when you have doubts about and everyone has doubts on their velocity. Everyone is afraid of competition. Every company in the Bay Area, that they're just like their default is like, we might die tomorrow. So that's the default compared to Europe, where it's like, we're already making like X millions of ARR, we're successful and everything. No. Until you make
we stay in Germany, we stay in France, right? Our market is big enough.
No, exactly. Yeah. So here the mindset is different. So when you have this ability to get shit done, being intense in the work and keeping your team happy, having the same level of intensity, you start to be a pretty good asset for a company, I would say. Or at least this is my interpretation of why people want to work with me.
And I mean, I guess you have the proof through successful products, but these days, I'm curious because I'm thinking about it so much because like I have those 26 companies I acquired, all different techs, and I think about like how to make it really comparable and measurable, which is from my perspective super hard. Like, are you into, I don't know, DORA metrics, something? Do you believe in it?
I believe in improving. I don't believe in, I would say, comparing, because like the context might be different. So it's really hard. Yes, the DORA metrics are interesting, but like more than the metrics itself, the trend is the one that I'm looking at. So like, how is it evolving?
So how is it evolving over time?
Yeah, exactly. And this is how I measure my success. Starting from here, wherever here is, starting from here, and boom, moving things up. The one metric that I love and I've used, I think it's the less bad metric, is the number of PR per engineer per week that you average across your organization. So
number
you don't
of
use it.
PRs per engineer. That's
You don't count like the line of codes. You don't count like that's probably like the first unit of value that is shipped to, I would say, your customer, that is providing some level of value, whether it is performance improvement or a feature. I don't care. But that unit is one that is interesting. Of course, you need to take it with a grain of salt. Of course, not against, I would say, specific engineers, because that would be like the dumbest, I would say, thing to do. But on aggregate, that's a really good way to understand how a team is evolving. And you need to be careful about the teams. Some people that are working on product-led growth, typically they do like a lot of iteration, a lot of experimentation. So they will have a lot of PR per engineer per week. Normal, nature of the business, very front-endy, to some extent, easy work. A back-end team, a platform team, every time they touch like the infrastructure or the database and all of that, they are very careful. So of course, their number of PR per engineer per week is usually a bit lower. But in their own context, you can start detecting the trends, and like all the modification you do as a CTO, VPN, or manager, you can measure the progress that you're doing. From what I've seen, most of the progress, I would say, it's not about the tooling. It's not about putting pressure. It's all about providing clarity. Clarity of the strategy, clarity of the things to be built, clarity of like the processes to get shit done. So usually most of my time is providing clarity on the mission of teams, like having a good organization where each team understand what they're doing. Coming back to my acquisition by DocuSign back in the days, our mission was clear across the company. Like, you build everything that makes DocuSign compliant for the European market. Easy. And now you drive. You do. With PMs, designers, and all of that. You do you. You know better. Just do it. When you're empowered and you understand what's the mission, you just move fast. Because you don't have to call the headquarters and say, hey, can we do X? Can we do Y? And all of that. So that helps a lot.
As long as you have like a team that is kind of flow aligned, right? Where you don't depend on other people, on other teams, etc., which is, from my perspective, really like another.
But that's part of the exercise. Like when you build an organization, you want to limit like the interdependencies between teams, because this is where, as you said, like the shit hit the fan. Like, oh damn, that team depends on that team and that one team, and especially if you're across the ocean, it can become like a nightmare. So you want to build an organization where teams are mostly verticalized. You want to ensure some level of consistency. But when you're in like a hyper growth and you want to win the market, you want to move fast. You're not at the stage where you want to optimize just yet. You just want to move fast. Which is also like something that was different between the Europe and the US. Like in Europe, we are always trying to find and taking the time to find a solution that will be the best ROI, like not too much cost, but will bring us there. Here, just move fast. You know what? And if we're successful and the infrastructure is costing a lot, that would be a good problem to solve for. But if we're not successful, I mean, there won't be problems at all. So I think that's also something that was like a click in my head, is like understanding that there's a time for optimizing and there's a time for like velocity and getting shit done, and understanding when to do that and empowering the teams to understand when to do that is also like a good way to accelerate the business.
Absolutely. And do you, just out of curiosity, I guess you have some microservices in your organization, or rather like maybe bigger services that are connected between, or are like interconnected, right? So you have some dependencies in your team, or is it like monorepo and everyone works on the same stuff?
So it is monorepo for the backend at Superhuman Mail. It's monorepo for the front end, or the client application. We don't have many services. I am like, you have to really force me to create a new service. You have to explain me why it makes sense. And don't tell me like, oh, it's because of the scale in 5 years. I don't care. Like 5 years. Anyway, we will redo like the architecture 3 times since I would say between now and in 5 years. So definitely like microservice is not something that I want to hear in my organizations. Interestingly, Grammarly, which has like much more like a code base, it's like a bigger and everything. They are moving towards a monorepo because of these interdependencies and the teams in the US, the teams in Europe. But there's also like the code ownership. When you do a PR and you have like 10 code reviewers because you're touching different places, even if you have like a monorepo, but like separated like code owners for, I would say, directories and everything, it's a nightmare. So, I'm a fan of like modulith, like cool domain design oriented type of architecture, but like as much as you can, one big deployment to make things easier, and you start breaking things up when you have to. But it needs to be painful. You don't do it just because it's fun and looks great on a Figma and an architecture diagram.
Yeah, that's I think a good philosophy that also many CTOs the recent years learned in the painful way, right? Like I don't know. I mean, I personally was attracted by microservices like, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 years ago, when it all really like went through the roof. But I think like being attracted by things that like big tech tells you is not idiot, right? Like it often leads you into a big time sink that you then like really have to recover from later on, right?
No, I think it's a fair point. Like we tend to look at those big corp like the Google, the Meta, the like even like LinkedIn and Kafka, and so there's a bunch of tech like this, and you start your company as like, oh yes, I know that LinkedIn is using Kafka, let's use Kafka.
Yeah.
But like you're a team of 2, you're serving like 10 customers, like don't do it.
And all of a sudden, you also discover that LinkedIn actually still uses Ember.js, and then you know that like if you follow that company, you're doomed.
No, exactly. Like the best example that I had was, like those models with like guilds, and I'm a fan of guilds. Like in my organization, I love to put guilds and everything, and it's coming from Spotify, and I was like listening to, I was at the discussion with someone at Spotify. I was like, yeah, your ways of managing like, I was at the organization and everything. Like, I mean, it's mostly marketing. Like the reality is way different. The philosophy is there and we try to stick to it. The reality is like, we do what we can. And like, it sounds like paradise and everything is well organized and everything is working well. No. We're like you guys. It's somewhat broken. And we have a way to look at the way we're broken that is consistent, which is already good. That's about it. The same way, like, so I've been remote for quite some time and managing remote teams for quite some time. And GitLab is the example of the remote team and how to work asynchronously, being like documentation first. And same, I reached out to a friend there, and she was like, "Come on, like yes." That's great and all. It's a good way to attract engineers and everything. The reality is we're like 70% there. Like it's always shitty here and there, new teams and all of that. So I became, and I'm now like way more skeptic when I see those great stuff and everything. And even if it's working in one context. The other example that I give, I used to give, now it's not the case anymore, but like early on, people that were like so much into agile. Oh, we need to be agile. That was the case in Europe. Like, we need to be agile and we want an agile coach and like, the 12, like the manifesto with like, and you're like, come on, guys, like read the content. I would say read the doc. Like it's a set of guiding rules written by guys that were like senior architects, senior like engineers. They knew each other for so much time. Of course, they can apply that. Now we have people out of college. We have people, I would say, that with like different experience, they don't know each other. Of course, that won't work. Stop applying stupid rules. That's a pretty interesting thing to think about. But like we have a specific context. Like, so we need to take your context into like, that's probably the most important input. That's your context. Sure, Spotify. Sure, GitLab. Sure, whatever. Now, in your context, what makes sense? And I think this is one of the fallacies, like reading too much seeing too many frameworks and time sink because you're trying to understand what's the best and everything. So now I have
to apply this now to my organization, and should I? And
exactly,
yeah,
exactly. And now I have an approach where I try to solve one problem per quarter. Maybe the problem is velocity. Okay, boom, I do some stuff. Velocity is better. Okay. Oh, quality is not great. Check on quality, and boom, you build a new baseline. And trying to solve and every time really thinking about the context. And sure, I have the input of the different frameworks that I've seen, different companies that I've seen, different scale of companies. But every time it's an ad hoc exercise with a bunch of people that I force to take a step back, forget about what they assume is right, and just challenge each other to do one thing, do it well, be persistent, and then tackle the next problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a very good learning for many out there, that focus is so valuable, right? And if you take the luxury of really focusing on something for a quarter, I mean, maybe you realize that was the wrong thing, but you have to pick a bigger portion basically so that you can really do it. And don't have 10 things you try to focus on, right? Don't have 10 things at once. Don't have 10 goals. Have one goal.
You can you have a team. Maybe my goal is to improve a velocity this quarter, or the AI adoption. That's my quarter for AI adoption. But maybe my managers will have their own one thing they want to solve. So and one IC, senior IC, want to solve one thing. Maybe it's the way to use feature flags in the company. Okay, go solve it. Tell us how to do it better. When everyone has one mission that is clear, that is their one thing of the quarter, you can multiply that by the number of teams, and you can have a pretty significant impact. Not everything will be done, but if you start having all of those, but everyone has its own focus, it makes a difference.
Yeah, that's an interesting view. You recently, or you mentioned guilds a few points or a few questions ago. How did you get that running? I'm always curious. I mean, maybe I also have a bit of a special environment because I basically buy SaaS companies, but the teams are all basically puzzled together. And it's hard to get people to real activity and to real action. How do you manage to incentivize that, or how do you manage to feed it?
So one thing that is usually interesting is whether you normalize or formalize those guilds or not, they exist in some capacity. Mm-hmm. Because engineers, they talk to each other. They want to understand how other teams are doing their front-end framework, the scaffolding of project or whatever. Because usually good engineers, they want to improve, and they're curious about others, and they want to understand how they're doing things. So no matter what, it's already there. So there's already a group of people that is talking. And I organize teams, guilds through stacks. So you have an iOS guild, you have an Android guild, a backend guild, a front-end guild. Now we have an AI guild of all the people interested in AI toolings, because there's always some people that are more interested than others into everything new that is coming and all of that. So formalizing it was one piece. Two was giving time officially. The same way we have shadow IT in companies because people want to install their own thing. We always have shadow engineering because people, sure, I have my features, sure, I have my bugs, I have my to-do list and everything. They're always trying some stuff on the side and everything. Of course, and you need that. You don't want robots. So formalizing the fact that yes, you can spend some time discussing with others about the new techs, doing small POCs and all of that is a key piece. The second piece is we put a guild leaders. So a guild lead is usually a senior engineer from that stack. And it was both an incentive and a accountability thing to do. They have to come back to us being the leadership, deciding for the planning for the next quarter. At the end of each quarter, they come and they say, hey, Loïc, you know what? On the back end, we have some issues with the monorepo. We have some issues with our CI/CD pipeline. We have issues with whatever. We want to solve it next quarter. And that's the mandate for the guild lead is to identify the top problems. So they surface. They come up with a list of 3-4 every quarter. And as part of the next quarter, we take that into account and we say, okay, you convinced us, and the head of product will do less features and we'll do that one and that one. So that this quarter you can, I would say, define, who will be working on it and when. And we basically put that into the quarterly planning. And it's working relatively well. Again, marketing a bit, like everything is perfect and everything, but like, of course, like if my engineers like listen to the podcast, they would say, hey, come on, like it's not working as well, right? So take everything I say with a grain of salt, but that's the idea. That's the idea that we are trying to follow. Sometimes it's working well, sometimes it's working less well, but doing postmortems and trying to understand what we missed and everything. But that's the model I tend to follow. And I do it because in my organization, I follow typically the same type of organization, platform team. And then like teams focused on like a vertical so that there's not a lot of dependencies. The only dependencies is with the platform team. So infrastructure, core backend, storage, and all of that. And then like the teams are full stack and focusing on a specific experience. So for us at Superhuman, it will be focusing on the calendar experience. I want a team that thinks day in, day out about the calendar, how people are using the calendar experience. I don't want people to move away, like so from project to project.
Tickets from A to B or move from project to project. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because you lose the knowledge, you lose a bit of the care. Because if it's not your experience and you're just building a feature, you're a feature factory and it's fire and forget. So it's creating some pretty good incentive in terms of ownership. But doing that, you separate your front-end people, your back-end people, your mobile people. So you want them to discuss across the team. And that's why I'm sort of like forced to artificially create those guilds so that they talk to each other and make sure that we are consistent in the way we use, we say React and we use like the design system or like, and all of that.
Mm. And they kind of meet every few weeks and are organized on Slack, I guess. And
up to them.
That's it pretty much.
Up to them. Like one thing that I learned as well is the aligned autonomy. Like the alignment is you guys, you need to meet, you need to like to identify the problems. And every quarter I want to have like basically the outcome, which is the list of things we want to solve for the next quarter. And when you tackle project, you come to me every month and you give me like an update on the progress. Have you done what were you planning to do? Yes, no. No, why? Oh, because this feature we needed to ship and everything. Okay, not happy. I will discuss with the head of product because we committed on giving you time and everything. So we have some checks and balances like this to try to do okay.
Cool. Yeah, really sounds good. I kind of have to think of like I don't know. I'm not a superhuman user yet, so
you should come on.
Yes, I'm still with Gmail, and I hate the spam filter these days because like email is really getting worse. But like from my like in front of my inner eye, it kind of reminds me of like it's kind of the linear of email, right? Like I don't know if you know linear, that they have that concept of really being super snappy and super fast on the front end and really doing things differently. Is that, and it kind of for me is like same blueprint, same playbook. Is that true or?
100%. 100%. We follow a rule internally. So there's two ways we are like very similar to linear, and we use linear as well. So the first thing is like we are very design centric. Like we care about the experience. We care about like the people using the product, and we are laser focused on one specific type of people. Compared to Gmail, Gmail needs to work for my mom, myself, and my kids. So when you have like a different set of personas like this, like you only focus on the lead, I would say the biggest common denominator of all those people. So basically the experience that you will provide will be meh, because it needs to work for my mom. She's 70, but needs to work for my daughter and she's 12. So of course your experience will be okay-ish, but never great for anyone. While linear and superhuman, we are laser focused on a very specific type of persona. So linear, they focus on engineers and product managers. That's it. Like it's not like Jira focusing on IT, focusing on like so many different groups. No, laser focused. So then when you know those people, you know how they work and you can do like provide a better experience. For us, it's like people with like a shit ton of emails. we focus on professionals that lives day in, day out in emails. Founders, head of sales, C-levels. Like I receive like a ton of emails all the time. I'm saving like I shouldn't do the count. Like we did the count like for our end users. I think it was like a year ago. But like the survey, people were basically saying that they were saving 4 hours a week. So 4 hours a week. And I would say I have the distribution. It's crazy to see. But like the distribution, like the peak of the distribution was on 4 hours a week. It's crazy.
4 hours a week is like 10% of like a standard working week, right?
Yeah, and if you're a CEO, you're living day in, day out in your emails because you're discussing with your founders, you're discussing with your board, you're discussing with your partners, with like your customers, and that's what you do. So of course, at that, I would say 4 hours a week. What is the amount of work that you can do like more like in 4 hours a week? What is the value of that? Sure, you will pay a subscription. And that's why people are willing to pay like $30-$40 a month compared to Gmail that is free to some extent. So yes, we are snappy. So those people want something that is super fast, don't want to wait. So we have a rule internally, which is like the 100 millisecond rule. Every interaction in the product should be under 100 milliseconds. We don't want people to wait and having like a spinning wheel while you're doing something. Things need to feel fast. And it has a lot of implication on the architecture because 100 milliseconds for the technical people listening to us right now, 100 milliseconds means like you cannot just rely on network. Because if you use the network and you have a data center that is like in the US West 1 with you're living in Europe, boom, 200 milliseconds, you're done. So we are offline first. So everything is happening locally. And then we do like the syncing later. But everything that you do happens locally. Sending an email, replying to an email, reading your email. Everything is already downloaded to your laptop or to your phone so that if you're in a plane, you can work on your emails.
I mean, like a normal app, right? Like Outlook back in the days, you also have your emails synced and you like downloaded them via IMAP and then you answer on them and then they're sent later. And you have...
good luck with that. Good luck with that. I would just say that the people that are using Superhuman are pretty happy with it.
I didn't want to question that. And the comparison with Outlook is maybe not the best one.
No, exactly. It's as if you were comparing, like, ask people using Linear if they want to go back to Jira.
Yeah.
No.
Good luck with that. No.
Good luck with that. If I tell my engineers that I will go back to Jira, like some will quit.
Yeah.
Because it's so worse. Like in terms of experience. And again, Jira and Atlassian, it's a great business and they did like some really good things and everything. But
it's an operating system, right? Like it's an operating system and sometimes you want simple things. And
it's even worse. It's an ERP.
Yeah.
It's basically an ERP.
Yes. It is. But you still rely on those like dinosaur protocols like IMAP, etc., right? Or
no, we use mostly like the APIs of Gmail, APIs of Outlook. So no, we don't deal with that. We don't have to. We're not even implementing. So we are not a mail server. So you need to have Gmail on the backend and you need to have Outlook on the backend.
Okay.
Well, the main reason is like most of our customers, they also use like a Google Workspaces. So it's also their identity and all of that. So it's just simpler. They just want a better experience managing their emails.
That kept me away from using hey.com. I once had a conversation with David who just said like at DHH, who just said like, hey, we couldn't rely on IMAP because we just wanted to be freaking fast, etc. I don't know if that was like bullshit back, like looking back. You can tell me more about that, I guess.
I mean, it's, I would say we're lucky to some extent because Gmail and Outlook are very API oriented. But they also know that we're serving a use case they're not serving. Like we're focusing on, we're good complement, I would say, for them. And to some extent, working well with Superhuman can be like a play for them. If I was Google or if I were Outlook, for example, Outlook is really bad for SMBs because I mean, no one wants to use Teams. No one wants to use Outlook. Only IT people and like CIOs wants to use like I would say those tools because they're great at scale, easy to manage. But the experience for the end users are not great. So I would probably, like, if I were, I would say with Outlook, I will help them. I would say simplify the interaction with like tools like us, so that people can be okay being on Office 365, but still have like a great experience.
Have like a good layer on top of that, right? Like, as there are companies out there that build systems on top of Salesforce to make it a better experience, or SAP.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's, just another layer, just decoupling. It reminds me a bit, like, I mean, back in the days when I migrated to Gmail, I was on, I don't know, GMX Web.de or something crazy before, and crazy German. And that was also like a similar moment. I feel the pain whenever I log into Gmail these days. It feels like me back in the days. It's a good approach, I think.
Yeah, and I mean that's also the result of, like, it's interesting. We were discussing with someone that used to work at Gmail, but Google is a very interesting, I would say, piece of tech. It's mostly driven by engineers. It's not driven by designers. So the tech,
you'll feel that.
but they have like a crazy tech. Like, look at Gemini. Look at Gemini. Now it's running on their own TPUs and everything. Like, they have smart folks. They are really smart folks.
They are super smart folks.
But the work on the design is an afterthought. And they used to have, I don't know if it's the case anymore. So I don't want people at Google right now, I would say, come back to me and saying, Loïc, this is not the case anymore. But like the way they were, I would say, creating like the promotion framework was for you as an engineer to build something. So maintaining something or improving something was not a case enough to be promoted. So all the great engineers, they needed to build something. And that's why you've seen like so many like chat, like software coming out of beta, I would say in beta for Google, like so many weird stuff. Like they built Inbox at some point, which was a great app. People got promoted out of it, but boom, it was forgotten and canceled eventually. And so the incentive is not to maintain and make the product better. The best engineer, like the best engineers, they focus on building something new. So everyone is using Gmail, and I do assume that the people that are working on the Gmail experience, they don't have a strong incentive to make Gmail better because it's not a good case for promotion, which is also, like, in retrospect, something you need to think about when you build your own career framework and how you promote people. What is the incentive you're selling to people? What is the impact on your product? If you want your product to be highly qualitative, it means that you need to bake in your promotion framework quality. And that's something that people sometimes forget, is like the promotion framework and the career framework is a crazy good tool to make your product better. It's not just an HR thing. Don't let that to HR. Like, own it and build a career framework that supports your goal, whether it is velocity of the product, the quality of the product, like the design of the product. Like, you want to be promoted as like one of the senior leader. What quality area have you improved drastically? And all of a sudden, people know that. Boom, that would be like their main motivation to improve quality.
Yeah, super cool. Would be super curious to understand your career framework deeper. Unfortunately, we're already at the end of our episode, and I still have like a secret little surprise question for you.
Sure.
Maybe we can record. Like, I'd really like, you really have like food for, I don't know, 3 episodes. So maybe we should record another one soon. Like, would be super happy to do that. You're super entertaining, really. And you have a lot to tell. But I still have that surprise for you, and I have to unroll it. So you're using LLMs in your core product, and you surely know about prompt injection. And I actually found a bug in your system so that I can like prompt inject your emails. And I sent you an email just right now that tells your LLM to send us back in time to the time when you moved from France to San Francisco, And we can now like observe yourself for a while. Like imagine that new country, new tech scene, probably wondering why every cafe is full of people pitching seed rounds, etc. And you now have the chance to whisper like one sentence, just one tiny sentence into young Loic's ears. What would that be? What would you tell him?
I love the prompt. It's a really way.
You have to try it.
No. It's a really good way to ask the question. The one suggestion I would do would be to, like take risk. Like we live in countries, like with this, whether it is Germany or France or like those social democracy, we don't understand how much of a safety net it is. And it's like when I'm working in the US, like people here are taking risk, and it's very risky because healthcare for my kids and all of that. Like I cannot afford to lose my job. I will find a job probably fast if I lose my job, but I cannot afford to lose it. In France or in Germany or in Sweden, you can afford to lose your job. You can afford to have like I would say doing tests, trying a company, do something. And I think that I was not an entrepreneur, and I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm much more like a lieutenant for entrepreneurs. But I think that I would take way more risk because I know it's safe. And I didn't have this understanding and deep understanding of how safe I would say all Europe is. So it's interestingly, I feel the best place to start a startup. Sure, we don't have yet the ecosystems and all of that, but from a safety net standpoint, there's no better place.
But we're all tired because of that. And you're still taking risks, even though you're in the US, I guess. I hope. Or did that stop you from taking risks?
No. I'm still taking risk, but
okay.
I need to calculate those risks way more because I have 3 kids. They go to college. University is not free in the US, and you don't want to hear how much I pay for this. So I need to take that into account. So like I could not, for example, join a seed stage company right now that is not giving me like enough cash for me to survive because I need to pay for those schools for my kids. If I were in Europe, in France, university is free. So I could do it. That's an example.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Oh yeah.
But still, I'm sometimes depressed by how slow everything is and how far we are behind. But maybe that's also sometimes the impression that you get that even like is amplified by like people talking about it and your view.
We are grumpy in Europe. We always see like the empty glass. Here they see like the I would say the glass half full, and they always look I would say with an optimistic eye. We're pretty dark in Europe. So I think it's a good moment, especially when everything that is happening right now, it's a good place. It's a really good place.
I agree. So come back. Thanks a lot, Loïc. Have a great day. It was really nice talking to you. And yes, we have to repeat that, I think. We have to look way deeper into superhuman, your human's tech and your brilliant mind. So have a great day. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Tobias. Thanks a lot. Have a good one.
See you soon.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the AlphaList podcast. If you like this episode, share it with friends. I'm sure they love it too. Make sure to subscribe so you can hear deep insights into technical leadership and technology trends as they become available. Also, please tell us if there is a topic you would like to hear more about or a technical leader whose brain you would like us to pick. AlphaList is all about helping CTOs getting access to the insights they need to make the best decisions for their company. Please send us suggestions to cto@alphalist.com. Send me a message on LinkedIn or Twitter. After all, the more knowledge we bring to CTOs, the more growth we see in tech. Or, as we say on AlphaList, accumulated knowledge to accelerate growth. See you in the next episode.